One of the most incredible singer-songwriters and undeniable talents in Americana music, Brandi Carlile, just released a new single with Elton John, along with the promise of a new collaboration album with the famed English singer-songwriter titled Who Believes in Angels, coming out on April 4th. If you know anything about Brandi Carlile, you probably know that she has a very close relationship with Elton John, as a friend, as a lifelong fan, and in a mentor-mentee type of relationship. In her book Broken Horses, Brandi shares how she discovered Elton's music as a child and how deeply it impacted her. She shares how she discovered Elton through the lyrics to the song Skyline Pigeon, how reading those lyrics led her down a path discovering his music, and how while performing as a child in the variety show circuit in the Pacific Northwest, Brandi was inspired to give a performance of Honky Cat, clad in a homemade Elton John costume that her mom made. Even as a kid, her admiration for Elton ran deep. She saw something inside him that was inside herself too. To this day, she still frequently covers Madman Across the Water, Rocket Man, and other Elton John classics in concert. Through the years, Elton has provided Brandi support in a number of ways, offering encouragement, gifts, and advice, and it's evident that they have a relationship on and off the stage. Brandi and Elton are both prominent voices in the LGBTQ+ community, and Elton has a long history of mentoring young, up-and-coming artists in the music industry. It feels like the two have almost a spiritual connection. It's almost like they were bound to meet. Now, this isn't the first song that Brandi and Elton have recorded and released together. Last year, Brandi sang on the title track of Elton's concert film Never Too Late, and the two actually released that song as a single, along with an acoustic version of that song. But that's just one single. The announcement that they're going to be equal partners in a collaboration album is an incredible development. According to a video that Elton and Brandi shared today, the album was recorded in collaboration with Elton's longtime songwriting partner Bernie Taupin and producer Andrew Watt, who has produced everyone from Justin Bieber to the Rolling Stones over the course of 20 days in October 2023. There was apparently some strain in the studio. This was a new challenge for Elton, and he had difficulty adapting at first. But eventually something clicked and the project took off. Sharing the news that the single was out, Brandi took to social media to say, "Elton John and I have been singing together basically my whole life. He just didn't know it. I've been working and dreaming my way towards this moment since I was 11 years old. Every album I've ever made has carried Elton's name in the liner notes. My quiet thank you to the artist without whom I would have never written a song. It was impossible to imagine that one day he'd not only be my hero, but probably my best friend. In some way though, I think maybe I knew." I'm going to give some thoughts on the song and the upcoming album, but before I do, I'd just like to take a moment to ask you, if you're enjoying this, please like and subscribe. I talk a lot about Americana, alt-country, roots music generally. If you follow along, I might talk about some of your favorite artists too. The title track that just dropped, Who Believes in Angels, is a piano ballad led by Brandi vocally with Elton harmonizing. It's about two kindred spirits who are helping each other through the hard times in their lives, saying things might get tough, but hey, you have someone to lean on. As expected from a Brandi Carlile Elton John collaboration, there are some great vocals on this record, great harmonies between the two. The song definitely rocks hard. I could see it as a solo cut for either artist, but I think it's enhanced by the fact that it is a collaboration. I don't know if the Hansaroth twins were in the studio with Brandi and Elton recording this, but I could certainly hear some similarities between some of their work and some of the sounds on this record. Maybe that's a sign of how in sync with one another Brandi and the twins are. Maybe that's Andrew Watt bringing in some of his perceptions of Brandi's music, some of his preconceived notions into the production. Yet at the same time, from a production standpoint, the song definitely has its own voice. There are these big blown out vocal moments that really don't sound like much of anything off of either artist's discography, at least nothing that I'm aware of. So I'm hoping that's an implication that this album is going to sound very different from anything we've heard from either artist. I find the titular line in the song a little bit peculiar given Brandi's self-professed deep faith. However, I think it's more about putting your faith in someone else, in a friend, in a companion, someone that you can say, hey, if we can lean on each other, it's us against the world, we don't need anyone else. Overall, I think this song is very fitting as a lead single for these two. It's very personal, it points towards their special relationship, and it gives us a great taste of what's going to come. I'm very curious to see how this collaboration materializes, especially knowing that there was some strain at the start of the recording sessions. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Brandi's influences, how Elton's influences come together and make something new. Especially given how big of an influence Elton is on Brandi, it's going to be interesting to see this kind of work circularly. Some of Brandi's influences cross-pollinating with Elton's. I don't know, I think it's going to be cool. Collaboration albums are an interesting topic in their own right. I think a lot of times they can lead to some interesting results, but there are a lot of cases where collab albums, even with great artists, are not greater than the sum of their parts. Even some of the most iconic musical collaborations of all time, with inventive, exciting artists, still tend to produce a couple of iconic songs and then a bunch of fluff. I want to be clear, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen here, because I'm really excited for this album and I don't want that to be the case. I'm just always a little bit skeptical when I hear about collaboration albums. That said, Brandi was the driving creative force and ringleader behind the Highwomen record back in 2018, which I think is one of the better supergroup albums out there. And so with that track record, I have pretty high hopes for this album. Brandi is still at a high point in her career, Elton is obviously still a legend, and Bernie Taupin, he's still just as sharp as he ever was, so I think this is a really good group to come together for this. Truth be told, I don't know a lot about Andrew Watt and his production style, but given his credentials, his track record, and some of the names that he's been working with, this might be a more pop-centric album than we're used to from Brandi, but that could be a refreshing change of pace. I've been waiting for news of a new Brandi Carlile record to drop for a while. I saw her in concert at the Anthem in Washington, D.C. back in March 2024, and during that show, Brandi announced from the stage that she had just gotten done working on a big project and that we needed to look out for something. And then, nothing. For 10 months. But damn, it was worth the wait. I had a hunch something was coming when Brandi announced her European tour the other day. I've been checking Brandi's website for a while looking for tour dates because me and my fiance like to go see her whenever she comes around to the area, and it's been a lot of nothing for a while. Now, this isn't always true, but when an in-demand artist doesn't have tour dates on their website for a long time, it often means something big is coming. Major tours are usually announced all at once, so if it's been a few years since a new album and things seem a little quiet, just hang on a little longer. Oftentimes, artists are just building anticipation for their next project. However, if you were looking for a tour out of this album, you're sadly out of luck. Brandi and Elton are going to play a one-night show at the London Palladium on March 26th, but beyond that, there are no plans to tour. Elton retired from touring last year following the conclusion of his Goodbye Yellow Brick Road tour, and while I doubt this is the end of him ever playing any road dates ever again, I imagine any more Elton John shows in the future are going to be shorter runs, maybe individual concerts popping up here and there, some residencies. He has expressed interest in doing that in interviews in the past. And as much as I'd like to see it, the prospects of a collaboration tour between Brandi and Elton seem pretty unlikely. I could be wrong though. Things change, maybe Elton wants another crack at it. Can always hold on to hope. If you haven't read it before, Broken Horses is a great read. This is one of my favorite books that I read last year. If you're interested in Brandi's perspective on life, on art, on her life story, and curious about some of the accolades from her career, this is a fantastic read. I highly recommend it. What do you think about the single release? Are you excited for Who Believes in Angels? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Brent Funkhauser from Red Moon Media. Thank you for watching. Again, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. It helps support what I'm doing here, talking about independent roots music. All right, thank you.